showing up at your place and completely tying you up and incapacitating you, and then being able to do whatever I wanted to every single hole in your body.
Following the announcement by Discovery Plus that a documentary was coming out about Armie Hammer, we find out that the LADA's office is still investigating allegations by women of sexual abuse. So what does this mean for the actor? I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime's Sidebar podcast. Well, we told you a couple of weeks ago about House of Hammer, and this documentary interviews women who said they took part in extreme bondage, cannibalism fantasies, and being tied up with Armie Hammer, by Armie Hammer during these sexual encounters. And I reached out to the LADA's office at the time, and they hadn't gotten back to me. Well, now they've gotten back to me. And they say that a specially assigned prosecutor is working with law enforcement as they continue the investigation. Once law enforcement has completed their investigation and submits the case to our office, we will conduct an evaluation and file criminal charges that are supported by the evidence. That is from a spokesperson from the LADA's office to me. So joining me to talk about this is somebody who discussed this with me before, entertainment lawyer Jonathan Handel. So Jonathan, welcome back to Sidebar.
Thank you, Angenette.
Jonathan, I feel like this is kind of a big development because everything that you and I talked about the last time we discussed Armie Hammer and House of Hammer are being released on Discovery Plus next month in September, Friday, September 2nd. We had heard, some reporting back in December that, the police were saying charges were unlikely. This was not a strong case because of Effie Angelova, a woman who claimed he sexually assaulted her. Some of the messages she had exchanged with people on Instagram saying basically, I'm not saying you raped me and things like that. And it made it sound like it was possibly consensual. Now we're hearing the investigation is ongoing, and this is 9 or 10 months after December of 2021. So what is your reaction to that?
Well, again, and as a refresher for those just joining the story, the Hammer denies the allegations and specifically says that the conduct, whatever conduct did occur, was consensual, S&M of various sorts and that sort of thing. But it is, it certainly is a rather stark acknowledgement by the DA that LAPD and the DA continue their investigation. They're working apparently cooperatively. And we simply don't know until that process plays out whether this is going to result in criminal charges or not result in criminal charges. And if it does result in criminal charges, what the outcome of that may be. It's important to remember that lots of things that people find awkward or uncomfortable or even distasteful, there are a lot of other people who find them enjoyable and exciting. And the difference between consent and lack of consent, of course, is extremely significant, whether you're talking about, a quote unquote vanilla sex act or an S&M sex act. Lots of people want to have sex with lots of other people, but lots of people also don't want to have sex with lots of other people, and consent makes all the difference. Women and men are entitled to have robust and exciting and interesting sex lives with people that they choose to have sex lives with, and not with those that they don't. So I don't think that we should get too worked up over the specific nature of the allegations per se, unless and until it becomes clear whether those were coupled with a lack of consent, in which case it's quite a serious matter potentially.
If there is a lack of consent and these weren't consensual acts, obviously it's a crime. And then the DA would have to decide whether or not they can meet that burden to prove these cases beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think it's important that you do point out, back when we talked about Effie Angelova, one of the accusers represented by Gloria Allred, Andrew Brettler, when I had corresponded with him about this last year in the spring of 2021, he said that basically all of this was consensual. And he said that the Instagram messages and the graphic text messages that she sent to him undermine her claims. He called them outrageous allegations. So Obviously, it appears there is some interest in S&M and kinky sex, bondage, and things of this nature. Whether or not it's consensual and whether or not it violated the law, those are the real questions here. I do find it interesting, though, that after all of these months, when we first heard back in December of 2021, yeah, it sounds like there won't be any charges, filed, and then we heard nothing, and now this documentary is coming out with these women describing being tied up and taking part in these bondage fantasies, some talk about cannibalism, things of this nature. That we find out, yes, indeed, the investigation is still ongoing, and they won't comment on whether or not they're looking into allegations made by other women. The fact that they won't comment on that, what does that tell you, if anything, Jonathan?
Well, it suggests that they are looking into those allegations. And of course, you know, parse some of this out. I mean, the cannibalism allegations are not literal cannibalism, I don't think. I mean, no one is, I don't think anyone has said that their ear was actually eaten by Armie Hammer, for example, or that Armie actually went and, ate someone for breakfast and, and put the leftovers in his fridge. Right? It's not a Hannibal Lecter kind of thing. It's not a, this is, he's, uh, but, and some of this is sexting, is, texting while sexually, excited. And the extent to which, when you're sexting an adult, uh, it's not often that becomes unlawful in the absence of some kind of restraining order saying, "Hey, you're stalking this person" or something. So it comes down to, what probably comes down to, what actual physical contact happened, and was there, if any contact happened, was there consent? Uh, but clearly I think the most that we can draw from this right now is that the DA, and the police do seem to be taking this matter seriously, and and investigating it to see, you know, whether there's more than smoke there, whether there's an indictable fire, so to speak.
Right, most definitely. And Andrew Brettler, I reached out to him to see whether or not he had a comment on this. He is somebody's very kind of famous guy, famous lawyer out there in LA. He is
He's Army. We should say he's Armie Hammer's
yeah,
lawyer,
Armie Hammer's
right?
lawyer, and I haven't heard back from him just yet. I've reached out to him, and in the past, he had told me that Armie Hammer denied these allegations. I did just hear back from Gloria Allred, who said that there's no decision by the DA and the investigation is still pending. So that
That,
tells you something right there. It's been
right.
now 9 or 10 months since December of 2021 when this was first handed over to the LADA. So they're still looking into it. I mean, this has been going on a long time.
It's a lengthy process for them, it seems, and perhaps lengthier than one might have expected. I don't know if we don't know who they're interviewing, whether they're looking for corroboration. If there are only two people in a room and there's a claim that there is or wasn't consent, those can be very hard situations. And among the things investigators look for is whether the complainant, the potential victim, uh, spoke with friends and other people contemporaneously and said, "What? Hey, I had something bad happen to me, or I had something, or conversely, I had something fun happen to me." Whatever. What statements, if any, were made contemporaneously? And so there is and if someone is alleging, physical damage or rape, did they go, to the hospital? Is there a rape kit? Was there a rape kit, involved? Um, were there any photographs of the conduct or of the aftermath? Evidence of ligatures of having been tied up, things like that. So it's more than simply a he said she said type investigation. There are other things that investigators look for, but exactly why it's taking them 9 or 10 months is something of an interesting question, honestly.
It really is. You would think they have witnesses. At least Effie Angelova had come forward back then and had a press conference with Gloria Allred. She had made the statements. She, filed the complaint, what have you. but it makes you think that maybe there is more going on here. So, Jonathan Handel, entertainment lawyer, thanks again for coming on Sidebar to talk about this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar podcast. It is produced by Sam Goldberg and Michael Deininger. Bobby Szoke is our YouTube manager. Alyssa Fisher handles our bookings, and Kiara Bronson does our social media. You can listen to Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can find it on the Law and Crime YouTube channel where you can watch us. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.